All right, so today we'll actually talk about how to use the full quadratic formula to find those two solutions or one solution if there is one. So now that we know how to use the discriminant to determine the number of solutions, we're going to find those. The quadratic formula works for every quadratic equation, which is really nice because graphing, you can see how many you have pretty easily, but sometimes it's hard to pinpoint them if they're not right on a grid line. Factoring is the easiest method, but it doesn't work for every problem. But this will work for every single problem. So here I have x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of our discriminant, all divided by 2a. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and do some examples for this. I do like to do that discriminant first. I think that's the easiest thing to start with. So here I have a equals 1, b equals -2, and c equals -4. And I'll go ahead and write R. I'm going to use D for discriminant. Okay, so our discriminant was b squared minus 4ac, so -2 squared minus 4 times 1 times -4 is going to give us 4 plus 16, or 20. So let's go ahead and take the square root of 20. And we're going to round to 2 decimal places. So this is approximately 4.47. So here I have the opposite of b. And we like to say opposite instead of negative because here I have a -2. The opposite is a +2. Then we're going to have plus or minus 4 and 47/100 all over 2 times 1. So we'll do it once with addition. 2 plus 4.47 divided by 2 will give us 3.24. And if I do 2 minus 4.47 divided by 2, I get -1.24. And that gives me my two solutions there. Okay, so let's do another. This time I will have to move this 5 over so that I can have 0. So I'll have 2x squared plus 3x minus 5 equals 0. So A is 2, B is 3, and C is -5. So I'll have my 3 squared minus 4AC for my discriminant. All right, so 3 squared is 9, and then this will give us -8 times -5 is 40, so 49. And this is a perfect square, so that's nice. The square root of 49 will give us 7. So now we'll use this portion. The opposite of b would be -3, well, plus or minus 7 over 2 times 2. So -3 plus 7 will give us 4, divided by 4 will give us 1. And -3 minus 7 divided by 4 will give us -2.5. Okay, so there's our two solutions. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to wrap up everything we know about quadratic equations and solving them by kind of summarizing all three methods we know. So here for quadratic formula, we'll do that one first. It's our newest one. So A is 1, B is 7, C is 6. So I would have, for my discriminant, 7 squared minus 4 times 1 times 6. So 49 minus 24 is 25. And if I want to square root that, I'm going to end up with 5. So then we'll have the opposite of b plus or minus 5 all over 2 times 1, which is 2. So -7 plus 5 divided by 2 will give us -1. And -7 minus 5 divided by 2 will give us -6. Okay, all of our methods here are going to give us these same two solutions. So at this point, it's kind of like whatever your preference is. I will tell you that my favorite method to use, if it's possible, is factoring. I think that's the easiest, quickest. And then I like to skip to quadratic formula if I can't figure out how to factor it. But that's my personal preference. Maybe you have a different preference. So let's go ahead and work through all of them. So here, let's do factoring because I usually tend to find that one to be the easiest. I want factors of 6 that add to 7, which would be 6 and 1. So this would factor to be x plus 6 and x plus 1. So to make this piece equal to 0, I need a negative 6. And to make this piece equal to 0, I need a negative 1. And I've already solved that problem. So if you can factor, I usually think that's the easiest one. Complete the square is also kind of new to us since we just learned that one last week. So this one we did x squared plus 7x plus something equals negative 6 plus something when you move that 6 over. So 7 halves squared would give us 49 fourths. That's what we're adding. So this one's already getting a little bit messy because of that fraction. So I'll have x plus 7 halves squared here equals, let's do negative 6 plus 49 fourths is 25 fourths. And then if I square root, I'll get x plus 7 halves equals plus or minus 5 halves. So if I do 5 halves minus 7 halves, that's where I'll get my negative 1. If I do my negative 5 halves minus 7 halves, that's where I'll get my negative 6. So same solution. This is usually the very messiest place to go, but it does come in handy in geometry for circle equations, which is why we show it to you. And if you like it, feel free to use it. And then graphing, let's look at making a t-table here. So we do the opposite of b over 2a. What was our b again? So negative 7 over 2 times 1 is going to give us negative 3.5. And then let's do negative 2 and negative 1, which would also give us, if this is a difference of 1.5, I need another difference of 1.5. Okay. I really have this upside down. Let me switch them. So here's a gap of 1, which is fine, because I'll have a gap of 1 here. Then here's a gap of 1.5 and a gap of 1.5. So that's fine as long as you're consistent, since it's a mirror image. So here, I plug in negative 3.5 to my equation. Negative 6.25 I get. If I plug in negative 2, I get negative 4. So both of these are negative 4. And if I plug in negative 1, I get 0. So I know that since these are my zeros, that my solutions are negative 1 and negative 6, even without actually plotting my points to make my picture. So it really is kind of up to you. Graphing is helpful if you do it on Desmos, the graphing calculator, to check your work. I find that one to be the most helpful when you're on that website, which I can show you as well. Let's go ahead and do that. So this is what our picture would look like, and I can hover over and I can see that negative 1 is a 0 and negative 6 is a 0. So Desmos is helpful to check your work along those lines as well. Again, it's kind of whatever works for you because you have 4 methods to all solve the same problem. I typically do find that factoring is people's favorite, but if factoring doesn't work for a problem, then you can always use quadratic formula or you can check it on a graph. If you really love completing the square, you can go for that as well. It's usually not students' favorite though, I find. today you do have a Delta Math assignment to work on.